Often when I show someone the Deluge for the first time, they will tell me something along the lines of, oh, that looks complicated, or it looks overwhelming, or very complex, and I can see why, because at a first glance it's got a lot of buttons, it's got a lot of tiny little text, and a lot of encoders. But if you just spend a little bit of time with it, you'll come to find that it's very intuitive and fun to play around with, and most of the layout starts to make a lot of sense after not a lot of time spent on it. But I also understand that it could be something that prevents people from getting it as, you know, like their first piece of gear, because they likely have some other equipment lying around. Maybe they've dabbled in synthesizers or drum machines or whatever it may be before. And this video is dedicated to someone who is looking at the Deluge from that perspective. Like, they're new to it, they don't really know what's going on, there's a lot going on, maybe they have some other equipment lying around. And I wanted to demonstrate how you can take your existing gear, turn it into, you can clone it effectively into the Deluge, but make it more and better than it was to begin with. In front of me I have the Synthstrom Audible Deluge, and I also have the Behringer Crave, which is a simple synthesizer that sounds really good. It's got a sawtooth oscillator and a square wave oscillator, and if you don't know what that is, I think that's okay. I will play around with it and show you what it sounds like. But first things first, let's just start these. So starting that one, starting that one. The Deluge defaults into a synthesizer program, and for our purposes that will work. If I press Shift and Synth, it says New in its own special way, and then I want to press Shift and Record. Then bottom to top starts blinking, and that's, I think, the only available selection, so you can leave it there. Meanwhile, I want to make sure I set the Crave to something that sounds good. I know from experimenting a little bit before that the D in this little keypad here is equivalent to a C, if I'm not mistaken. And I like to record a C because then everything is laid out in a way that makes sense. If I play this, nothing, you won't hear anything, but the second I press down the bottom to top black encoder here, the recording will start, and it will start to record. Let's just do that for a quick second. Alright, and then I press the encoder again, effectively stopping the recording. If I press back, undo, it should now, this sound that I just played from the Crave should be loaded into my Deluge, but with a slight delayed start. It's spread out across the entire keyboard, so with that one note, you've already created a new synth, sample-based synth in the Deluge, which is amazing. But if I play a different note on the Deluge, it will play a transposed version of that sound. If I press Shift and waveform, you can see what the waveform looks like. And if the green line is blinking, I can move that around to adapt the start time to when the sound actually starts. If I press and twist the sideways encoder, you can see that it zooms in or out. And while this still is blinking, I want to keep zooming in closer and closer into the waveform until I get to a really, really close space here where you can start to see the actual waveform play out. If I do that as far in as I can, yeah, I think this is probably just about enough. The endpoint doesn't matter as much. We can leave it here, but if you want to change it, you just tap on the red line and move it around. If I press back, this should now play as a synthesizer, which is amazing to me. And what I want to do next is affect what this sounds like. So if I just tap the, let's see, the attack release and affect the release of this, it will ring out more like how it does in real life. And after that, I want to just program a simple sequence of something that sounds alright. So yeah, something like that. And then if I want to make this longer, I can do that in a couple of different ways. One way is pressing Shift and then the sideways encoder, which doubles this. And if I play this back, it will sound. There's the second way of doing it, which is pressing Shift and then just scrolling this sideways. And if I do that until it hits the 4, you see that we have effectively doubled the length. And let's go down a little, add some more notes. I want a note that's not on the scale, so if I just disable the scale there, this one is the one I want. Is that right? Yeah, and then the last one. I think if I re-enable the scale, this new note will be added to it. Yeah. So that should give us a nice little loop. And if we want to affect the synth just a little bit, we can press Shift and frequency, which will affect the low pass frequency. We can either just turn this down, see what it does to the sound, but let's leave it where it is and have it be affected by the low frequency oscillator, the LFO, instead. So while this is still blinking, I press Shift again and then I press LFO1. Dial this up to a value that I think sounds good. I think 10 is, it's like deep enough, but if I play it back, it's a little bit too fast. I don't know if it was very audible, but if I press Shift and LFO1, I can slow the rate of the low frequency oscillator down to a level that sounds good to me. Now if I play this back, maybe I can actually lower the frequency of the low pass filter just a little bit, just to make it feel less sharp. And then I can add a bit of delay. Add some reverb too. So I select the reverb, dial it up. If I press Shift and look at the different reverb parameters I can mess around with here, I have dampening, and I like to turn that down, I think all the way. Let's see what it sounds like. That sounds cool. Let's play it back. If I press song and go back into the main song view, press anywhere on the next line and then press the black encoder, I will start an audio channel. If I press learn and input and turn this to left with a dot, that means the left channel from the line in input, and the dot means that it's being monitored. Since the Crave is a mono synthesizer, that's all we need in order to make it sound good. So now I will be playing the sounds directly from the Crave back into the Deluge. And you can hear that there's a slight glide or portamento as part of the sound that we didn't capture in the synth that we made, but I'm sure you can add that after if you want to get accuracy. But I'm thinking if you play these together but separately, you can make it sound pretty good. So yeah, we have the new audio channel. If we go into it and add a bit of reverb again, and if we press this one, the next one, if we press the modulate, the golden encoder, we can cycle between chorus and phaser. I think phaser sounds probably cool. Just a little bit. And before we start playing more, maybe we add just a tiny little bit of delay for this one too. By clicking down the delay button, you can cycle between analog and digital, and the top one cycles between normal and ping pong, meaning normal as in mono and ping pong as in the stereo field. Good way of getting some additional depth to the sound. And then the last thing I want to do before we play some more is to add a kit track, and we'll just use the preset 0. I'll add 2 kick drums. I'll press effect entire and lower the level so they will not be audible anymore. You can't hear me playing anything. But when I go back to the song, I can now add a little bit of sidechain. So if I hold anywhere on a track, select the sidechain and just dial it up a little bit, and do the same thing for the other one. If I now play this back, you will hear a slight like volume ducking effect. Okay, I don't know if you hear a lot of it, but it helps with giving it a more rhythmic feel. And I want to go in and affect the low pass frequency for the audio in channel, just to make it a little bit less sharp again. Actually, you know what? Since we have the filter cutoff directly in the Crave, we can do it here. We can do the same thing and have the filter be affected by an LFO. And we can affect the pulse width. Maybe just play with the envelope a little bit. This is about as far as I'll take it, but I just wanted to show you what you can do. It's so easy. If you have gear in your possession, or if you can borrow it from a friend, you can actually record it into here, create your own synthesizers, and have a pretty substantial backup of synthesizers, drum machines, whatever you want, in your Deluge. And I don't think that this will replace all other gear, but it will certainly complement it in a very, very nice way. So I'll just play a little bit, and I'll probably just play around with the pulse width more than anything on the Crave as I play on this very, very simple little keypad here, together with that simple sequence we recorded into here. So I'll go back into the song view, press play, and thank you for liking and commenting and subscribing. If there's anything you really liked about this video, please let me know. If there's something you didn't like, please let me know as well, and I'll try to take it into account for the next one. Thank you.